William T.
Uh,
Riker graduated 8th in his class in 57. Linars are some kind of Celtran bat, and Captain Jellico prefers a certain formality on the bridge. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation Season 6, Episode 10, Chain of Command, Part 1, story by Frank Abatimarco, teleplay by Ronald D. Moore, directed by Robert Shearer. This was December 12th, 1992, which was 4 weeks after the previous episode, so clearly there were a
Hmm.
few weeks off there. Uh, how you doing today, Sirach?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yeah. How about you?
Doing just fine. Thank you very much. Beautiful day in Los Angeles, California. Everybody, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. We'd really appreciate that. And go visit us at patreon.com/the seventh rule to become part of the team, part of the community, part of the family, part of the fun. All right. Full disclosure, Sirach. I feel like I may have seen this episode before. However, you have never seen this episode before. I don't know if you've heard of the title. I don't know if you know anything about it, but theoretically speaking, your first foray into Chain of Command Part 1, what did you think?
Well, right off the top, I can say I liked it. I had heard about it. People were, this was one of those episode titles that just comes up every once in a while when
Hmm.
somebody's referencing the next generation. I'll hear them say certain titles over again. Fistful of Datas was one of them. But yes, Chain of Command is also one of those that has just come up in the thing. Best of both worlds, those kinds of
The Inner
episodes.
Light,
Yeah, you hear these
Darmok.
names, but you don't know what they mean until you watch them, and then you realize why they stand out and why they stand the test of time because it's good writing. And you ask me what I think. I think that when I see Ronald Moore's name in the opening credits of an episode, I think I'm about to get a good episode of
Yeah.
television. And I sit down and prepare myself, and I say, 9 times out of 10, this guy hits it out of the park. So I'm almost always, 9 times out of 10, Ron Moore hits a home run. There
Hmm.
is that one time where it just doesn't maybe land here or there, but that's a bunch of other factors, including
Yeah.
acting and directing and things of that nature. But 9 times out of 10, Ronald Moore hits a home run.
Yeah, and he used to be the guy that TNG and later Deep Space Nine turned to for the Klingon episodes. Remember? It was always like Ronald D. Moore was the Klingon guy. Klingon, Klingon, Klingon. Now maybe he's the Cardassian guy because upon watching this episode, I couldn't help but think this is the most insight into Cardassians and the most development of Cardassians up to date, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deep Space Nine was still not yet airing. It was about to at this time. This was
Right.
this aired a month or so before Deep Space Nine, maybe 3 weeks before Deep Space Nine pilot episode Emissary aired. So that just to put that in context, we're seeing Gul Lamek here, and we're seeing Gul Madred at the very final scene. They are being introduced at the same time as we're being introduced to a character named Gul Dukat. And, Ronald D. Moore kind of has a hand in these. And you can see how when the Cardassians first started off on TNG, they were just kind of, they were fearsome. They were something. They had these weird spongy chest plates or whatever. But now they're finally acting like the Cardassians that we know and recognize?
Yeah, and that was one thing about Gold Lamech that I liked because he kind of fit the what we now know as the archetype for the Cardassians, which is that long, lean, tall, slender,
Hmm.
kind of a long neck as well as part of it. There's just certain attributes, I guess, that they look for when they're casting because this guy had the same kind of vibe as a Marco Limo, just a little
Totally.
bit less sinister, less intimidating, less sinister than a Marco Limo.
This guy seemed a little
But
more slithery in a way, right? He was just kind of like, in fact,
well,
I
yeah,
think
well, yeah,
this
as a
actor
diplomat,
played, I
yeah,
think this actor played, speaking of slithery, I believe he played in the sixth episode of the first season. He played one of the, God, what were those guys called? The snake guys? Remember the guys with like the cobras? The
yeah.
co in Lonely
Uh,
Among Us, the I can't remember what they were called, but anyway, in Lonely Among Us with the snake guys, he played one of those, if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
well, yeah, he seemed to have more human attributes to some of his delivery. He was less, he seemed more of a diplomat initially, but then when the opportunity came and you saw he had the upper hand on Jellico, or at least appeared to, um, it his demeanor came out, his gamesmanship came out. I think that's one thing I enjoy about the Cardassians. I like the verbal gamesmanship that they engage with when they are going back and forth with the Federation or whoever's representing the Federation. There is a chess game being played in language between the Cardassians and whoever they look at as their adversary.
Always.
And so everything is very calculated. Everything is about trying to checkmate your opponent. And I felt like that was captured very well in this episode in the moment when Golamek started to feel he had the upper hand and was starting to come on the offensive to Jellico in that meeting that they had.
Right. So in Lonely Among Us, season one, episode six, it was the Antiquans or the Antiquans and the Sele. So these are the guys I was thinking of.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to remember somebody in that outfit.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
Anyway,
Uh, yeah.
so I'm going to go ahead and admit something to you, Sirach. I love this episode. I remember this back in the day. I had the VHS tape. I paid 19.95 for it, or I think I paid 39.95 for the two-part thing because I've seen it a lot of times. I've seen it a lot of times, and when I first saw it, it left an impression on me. It was like, whoa, whoa. Star Trek can be pretty cool if it takes it in this direction because this is almost like a Deep Space Nine kind of direction where you're like three people on a secret mission, right? Dealing with Cardassians and political implications of potential war and a lot of subtext, like when Golomek says, "Oh, by the way, where is Captain Picard?" Ah, it would be such a shame if something would happen to such a noted officer. And we know what he's saying. We know exactly what he's saying. And Jellicoe's shaken up by it. Jellicoe's like, he's
Mm-hmm.
reassigned. He's like, okay, well, very well. If you want to take a break, that's cool with me. But really, it's all over his face where he's saying, shit, they got us.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned, the checkmate, Cardassians got the checkmate at the end of this episode. And
Yes.
it's just such a good episode with so much good stuff, in my opinion. This was maybe one of the, if not the best and most memorable episodes when I was first watching it back in the day. I was like, oh man, this is good. Picard is dead. Long live Jellico, right?
Well, yeah, to some degree, yes. And by the way, this is a kind of episode that I like as well. So when it comes to Star Trek, there's several kinds of episodes, right? There's the interacting with a new species, society episode, discovery episode, where you learn about yourself or the other species that you're interacting with. There's the episodes that deal with potential war and strategy, like this episode, which I enjoy a lot, and Deep Space Nine had a lot of as well, which I think is, why I like this episode as well. Um, and and then there's the comical fantasy episode where they're in a western and whatever, and they're stuck in a holodeck program. There's those kinds of episodes, right?
Right.
And there's the kinds of episodes that I like more than others. And when it comes to this kind of episode, this is what I like because I watch this show for the adventure of space, but also for the relationships and um, getting a glimpse into a world that I can fantasize about. And that world would is built upon the Federation as the main foundational piece of the ideology of Star Trek. So the more I get into Starfleet and the Federation and the inner workings of it and the chain of command of it and their mission statements and their classified briefings, the more I get into that world of this is how large functioning military bodies or whatever you want to call it, this is how they behave, right? This is how it's the structure is. And these are the kinds of scenarios in which they're faced with. This is the kinds of decisions that they have to face, whether you're infringing upon neutral zones or you're in somebody's territory or you're running a black ops mission in an unauthorized territory. This is why I want to watch the show. I like it because I like the intrigue of that kind of stuff, which is another reason why I think Section 31 has value because that leans in that same direction of the black ops and the structural chain of command of what kind of missions that Starfleet deems most necessary. So that's why I like this episode. Show
Yeah.
me the inner workings of Starfleet. Show me how the Federation is thinking. Show us how they played chess. Um, right away it started off with a great thing. Probably the shortest open I think I
Yeah.
can remember. The shortest, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
she Admiral
Nechayev.
Nechayev comes aboard and literally says, "I relieve you of your duties," or something to that effect. It
Hmm.
wasn't long. It was maybe about 30 seconds, and then
At
boom, they cut
best.
to the
Yeah.
at best, and they cut to the credits. I'm like, what the
And that's good
like?
enough.
And that was
Sometimes
it.
it's like a 5 minute intro and it's like not that great. They're
Yes,
playing racquetball or something. But this was like, I'm not here for pleasantries, bro. Here to relieve you of duty. And we're like, what?
yes. So boom, right away they cut to the chase. They're like, look, we're not going to play around with this. We're going to get you right to the point right away. And that is another thing that Ronald Moore did great. He hit the ground running with the story. We're already like, okay, tell me more. Who's in charge now? And by the way, Jonathan Frakes, every time I see him acting, as you said, like a director
Yes.
wants you to act, he gives some of the amazing facial expressions and looks, right? I mean, he's literally
So good.
stealing. It's like stealing points as a boxer, by getting those like, stomach shots or whatever little.
Totally. Totally.
He steals points as an actor.
By just saying, well, I'm going to give a really good reaction here, or a smirk, or a look, or a huh? Or what do you think, Deanno? Do we,
Yes,
what's he, or yeah,
yes,
okay, sir. Hmm.
yeah,
Like he's so good at that.
yeah,
He's thinking like a director. He's giving you something to work. He's letting
yeah,
the audience know how
yeah,
we're supposed to feel about this. That's what he's doing. He's kind of leading us. Like
yeah,
we're like, well, I don't really trust him. We look at Riker and it's, nope, Riker doesn't trust him either. Okay, I'm right. We're not
yeah.
supposed to trust
He
this
is
guy.
being an asshole. Look, Riker
Yeah,
doesn't like him.
Riker's looking like, he's very
Yeah,
skeptical. Deanna looks
yeah.
concerned, but Riker looks skeptical. He knows. He gets it.
He knows exactly, and so he literally steals points as an actor by because what it does is it makes the camera look at him, right? Because these
Yeah,
looks are so good that he's basically stealing screen time because his looks, you have to show the look. You can't not show the look. So that
it's
takes
great.
away from another actor who might have their reaction shots, and
Mhm.
so or might be speaking.
Yeah, but
His
that actor's
reaction
only
might.
there for the week, so whatever.
So right away I thought him, saying, "Excuse me, sir, but it's not necessary to have Jellico, come aboard and be the captain. I'm perfectly qualified. And the way he got shot down in that moment, first of all, the initial look when he heard that, he looks over at Marina's
Yeah.
like, she's looking at him like, are you like, she's communicating telepathically
Yeah.
with Riker, like,
Because the first thing he's thinking is, "Whoa, what am I, chopped liver? I've been doing this
yeah,
for 5 years." And they're like, "Yeah, and you've had a chance to move up and be a captain to other places a bunch of times, and so whatever. You had your chance. We're bringing in Jellico, who's 10 times the captain that Picard is, everybody knows. Captain Edward James Jellico is the greatest captain in the history of Star Trek. Everybody knows it, and that's why he takes over for Captain Picard starting right now.
yeah.
Did
I
you
don't
know
know
that
about the
you were
greatest,
did you
but
know you were
I
watching Picard's final two episodes in Next Generation,
yeah,
and then now it's the
no.
Jellicoe show?
Let me ask you, because I swear I've seen Jellicoe's face before. Did we see him before in the show? He must have
N-
come before.
no,
This is the
never.
first time I've seen this guy. That's what you're telling me.
Well, maybe not. He was
Okay.
in Prodigy. He returned in
Okay. No. No.
Prodigy.
Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. So I did hear his voice then. Okay. Because I
Yeah,
didn't. I was like, where did I know this Jellicoe guy? Okay, that's what it Prodigy. So let
I
me
thought he
erase
was
that
going to
because I
come
don't even
back in
remember
Lower
that.
Decks. There
Yeah.
was, I think, at the end of season 2 or 3 of Lower Decks, and Captain Freeman was being dragged away. Maybe it was season 4, 3 or 4. She was
Yeah.
being dragged away, Captain Freeman, from her duties on the ship. I can't remember why. At the
Yeah.
end of that season, and then the next season, we're gonna find out what happened. I swear I was willing to bet money that Captain Jellico was gonna pop up in Lower Decks, turn everything into a 4 shift rotation, and we're gonna do all the stuff that we did in Next Generation, where they're like, "Wait, why are we doing a 4 shift rotation? What's going on with this? I can't sleep," But they didn't. She was back pretty
Okay.
quickly or something like that. But anyway, I was
Well,
sure.
he
But he
came
did
on.
come in Prodigy.
He came out on the ship like a bat out of hell. Like he looked super confident and super
Had a job to do.
like no, like I do it this way. It wasn't just like I have a job to do.
Hmm.
It was like I want you to do this, I want you to do that. I want us meeting at 1400 hours. I need you to get this done, that done. Like he came through with the fourth shift, this make sure we get senior staff at 1300 hours.
Prepare
Like
for war. Like we don't have time. We gotta get ready for war. We gotta
so he
change
hit the ground
everything.
running.
Yeah. And he knows Cardassians very well. He likened them to timber wolves. Ooh, cautious by themselves, but more bold in numbers or something like that, right? And then, of course, then they like went back and played basically tennis with that analogy, where then Troy goes like, "Well, the thing with timber wolves is one of them might end up dead." He goes, "Well, if we're doing timber wolves, then the key is to be the one that's still saying, okay, we get it, guys, we get it. Okay, we don't have to play analogy chess or metaphor chess. Like we
Yeah.
get it. Okay. Anyway, but that was still cool.
What?
It's a good line.
Yeah, and he kind of got a he went at Troy too. He was like, "Yeah, Troy, let me not see you wear that outfit anymore."
That's
I
badass.
I thought that was kind of he was really laying down the law when he got on board.
Well, a lot of people will, oftentimes complain about, why are they making Troy wearing some skimpy outfit while everybody else is in a uniform? And maybe he thought the same thing where he's like, yeah, like you're a Starfleet officer. I don't need to see all that. I'm like, what's going on? He came and he
He
laid down the law with
did.
everybody, and everybody
I
watching
did.
this knows he's the greatest captain in the history of Star Trek.
Yeah, he laid down the law. But you know what else? I was disappointed because Data turned into a real ass kisser, and I
That
didn't know that was possible,
that
man.
just makes that just makes Jellicoe really smart because he tells Riker to do something. Riker kind of resists a little bit. he talks to Troy. Troy's kind of like, well, actually, I think you need to, worry about people's feelings. He tells Data to do something. Data's like, yep. How high do you want me to jump, sir? And he's like, Data, you're with me. Yep, this is my guy right here. This is my guy. You
Yeah.
are with me. Follow me everywhere, Data. You know everything and you do everything I tell you to do.
Yeah, and he turned into a real, brown nose. Uh, I couldn't believe it. I was like, because this is when I knew Data had really flipped. This was the moment. Jellicoe's telling Jordy, I need 15% more optimism, like more optimization out of the warp core
Data
or
kept
whatever.
selling him out, man. He kept going, well, theoretically,
Yeah.
you could do that if you don't sleep, Jordy. Just get to it.
Yes. Yes. And Jordy's like, you can tell he's like, it's crazy how well, LaForge is able to do that too. Because I felt his facial expression. He's looking at Data like, are you serious, Data? Like, bro.
He's staring holes in him right now.
Yeah, he literally was laser beaming him at that. He was throwing daggers with his eyes, and I just felt. And then Data as was walking away, he looks back like like yeah, you could do that. Yeah, I got that done. Such a brown nose, such a teacher's pet. A little bit disappointed. Data didn't stick up a little harder.
But that's exactly the type of person he would be. He's like, he doesn't take sides. Even when somebody's picking on him, he goes, well, you
Yeah,
are theoretically correct that I'm an android with no feelings. I'm not a human at all. Uh, so it's funny though when somebody's like totally screwing over his friend and his friend's like, I can't do that. And Data's like, on the contrary, Jordy, I believe you can. It's theoretically possible. And Jordy's like, shut the fuck up, Data. I swear to God, this is not helpful. This is not helpful, bro.
yeah. It's like the friend that snitches on you. Actually, last night you were at the bar drinking, and you're like,
Yeah. Yeah, you don't remember that? Remember you had two Mai Tais and a Long
yeah,
Island, and then you left with that girl. You don't remember that?
yeah.
You must have been too drunk.
You're like, bro, what are you doing? Just because
Yeah.
the new guy gets here, you don't start snitching, bro. What's up with that? So I was a little disappointed. I guess Data's loyalty doesn't transfer under new administration.
No, yeah. So, and it's good too, but actually the other side of that though is it does show how intelligent Data is that now that he knows that for the next 50 episodes, Edward Jellico will be the captain of the USS Enterprise 1701D. They will have a four shift change, and you know, Troy is going to be wearing her awesome blue uniform, which, by the way, looks freaking awesome on her.
She
And
did look good, amazing. Did.
Picard's gone forever. Who knows what's up with Beverly and Mr. Woof. Um, Actually, let's jump to our break real quick. But I did think it was really awesome to think like, okay, who's left there? We have Jellico, Riker, Troy, Data, Geordi. That's a cool crew. And then, Picard, Beverly, and Worf was also a cool crew. I love when they have like those split offs because
I
it gives
know. I
people
thought
a
about the
chance.
same thing.
It gives
And I
people a
always think
chance
about
to.
you when it's an away team. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, the away team is Picard, Worf, and Crusher.
Yeah,
And I'm like, that's so I actually write it in my notes.
me too.
Basically Ryan's away team.
Yeah,
Um, so it's funny you put that in my head. But let's talk about on the other side because I want to talk about some of that away team stuff. You
sounds
know,
good. Everybody, stick
yeah.
around. We will be right back on the seventh rule with the greatest captain of all time, Edward Jellicoe. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the seventh rule with Sirach frickin' Lofton.
Hello.
Here are the trivioids of the week. Admiral Nechayev relieves Captain Picard of command of the Enterprise. Captain Jellicoe is looking forward to working with Riker. William T. Riker graduated 8th in his class in 57. Captain Jellicoe doesn't like the standard 3 duty watches. 24th century medicine doesn't have a cure for muscle soreness, apparently. Captain Jellicoe prefers a certain formality on the bridge. Starfleet intelligence believes the Cardassians are developing a metagenic weapon for the past few weeks. Oh, for the past few weeks, theta band subspace emissions have been detected from Celtris 3, and Linars are some kind of Celtran bat. All right. So Strzok and I were talking about Ronnie Cox, who plays Edward Jellico, being in Total Recall, I believe. But then I think Mark Alimo was also in Total Recall, and I think they might have even been in like the same scenes. Let me see.
Ducat and Jellico in the same movie. That's pretty interesting.
Okay, so here he is in Total Recall, talking with Arnie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember him in that.
Is that him? Yeah, I think that's him too. That's pretty
Wow,
messy.
good makeup.
Uh, yeah, there he is. But then, what about, yeah, see, there he is. There's Mark Alimo in Total Recall too.
Oh wow.
Isn't that great?
Okay, so now we know Ronald Moore was watching Total Recall
Yeah.
and was like, yeah,
And
I
everybody knows Robert Picardo was in Total Recall too as Johnny Cab.
I didn't know he was the cat.
He was this guy.
I thought that was like a plastic doll. I didn't know it was
Well,
actually.
yeah, I mean, I guess it was something. But it was Robert Picardo that did it. Oh, wow, this is
Oh wow,
funny. Somebody's doing our homework for us here. Ronnie Cox, is there anybody else? Nope, that's it. Just those three. Anyway,
wow.
enough about that. So the away mission, cool away mission, and they actually made action figures of that away mission. I remember I had the Worf action figure in all black, which was a pretty badass character. I don't think I had the other two, just Worf.
Yeah, all black Picard. It was pretty cool. I mean, they made real good use of the cave scene. We got to see the cave extensively, and they made it look pretty big. Robert Shear, I thought, did a relatively good job directing this episode. There was a lot of
Hmm.
action in this, and I thought it was pretty good. The directing was good. Um, but it's funny that Picard says when they're on their away mission, right? He's got Crusher and Worf there, and he says to Dr. Crusher, "Well, of course you're here because we need you to dissect the virus and look for theta waves and whatever,
Yeah.
something to that effect, right?" And then he says, "And Wolf, it's obvious why you're here."
Yeah.
like,
To get
like
beat up as always.
I thought to myself, like, that's deciding, that's prescribing so little, like, value to the guy. At least articulate what it is the same way you did it for
Yeah.
Dr. Crusher, right? Like
Say,
you said,
because when Cardassians show up, Worf, we need you to come in with your
yeah,
Klingon Tai Chi and then attack, and then whatever,
yeah,
and do the thing
yeah.
that you do.
Add value to it. There's value to
Butter them up.
being, yeah, butter him up a little bit, but it's like, it's obvious why, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
By the way, one quick side
as
note.
if as if you would have nothing else to contribute, right? Because
Right. He's
it,
still a
it
Starfleet officer.
like his brain would not be able. It's like as
He
zero
knew
contribution.
what level to put the phaser to open up that lava
Yes,
tube.
yes.
That's kind of cool. That's a science thing. He knew how to do that. Real quick side note, though, check this out. A fourth Star Trek actor found in Total Recall.
Wow, this is crazy.
The guy that played the Zach Dorn. Remember this guy, the
Oh yeah,
Zach
oh
Dorn
yeah,
that did like
oh
the
yeah.
game with Data?
The game, yeah.
I always forget what that episode's called and what his
Okay,
name
what
is.
what what year did Total Recall come out? Because this is
I feel like it
December
was
12th,
like
19,
I feel like it was like
in the 80s,
92, 90, was it that? It was the 80s? I
late
feel like
80s,
I don't know. I thought it was the early
91.
90s.
Okay, you know.
I feel like it was early 90s. Let me see. It was 1990. June 1st,
Okay,
1990.
yeah, literally
Wow.
like 2 years. This is 2 years later, so yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that. Maybe the only person that got hired before that was the Zach Dorn guy.
Yes. Uh-huh. Right.
You know what I
He
mean?
was in an episode in like 88, 89. Yeah.
I, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Uh, Yeah, so I just thought that was a slight on Worf. Don't say, and it's obvious why you're here.
Yeah,
Like, when you're not just here to kick butt, you're here to contribute as a Starfleet officer in a multitude of ways, right?
true.
So just basically saying you're only here because your physical prowess is slightly as a slight. I'm sorry, it's just a slight. I didn't like it. I thought, come on, dude, you can do better than that.
So what about, here's something I want to ask you, Boot. Uh, Riker and Jellico are like oil and water. Like it's just not working. Riker is a good officer. I believe Jellico is a good officer. Yet somehow, you know, Jellico and Troy, they kind of work okay, but that's because Troy is better at meeting people halfway. Like she, when he talks to her and says something she doesn't really like, she's still better at kind of smoothing things over. Like when she's like, "Oh, the crew is really concerned about these things," and he's like, I understand. All right, I'm putting you in charge of making them taking care of that." And she's like, "That's not exactly what I meant, but
Yeah.
okay." Geordi's pissed. He's like, "I can't do all this stuff," and Riker's like, "Well, yeah, I'm not gonna be the one that talks some sense into him. That he's made that abundantly clear." So sometimes you have like a new boss at work or a new manager at work and nobody's necessarily bad. It is just not vibing. And I've been in those situations before where, I'm eager to show the new boss. Oh, no, no, I'm fine. I'm cool. I'm good at my job, this and that. But for some reason, it's just not working. We're coming at it perpendicularly. And that's what I'm seeing with Riker because he's a great officer and Jellico is the best officer ever. So, just one of those things. And we feel Riker's pain, that's for sure.
Mm, I look at it. I look at it a little bit differently. I think that it comes down to leadership style, and I think that Picard is a collaborative leader. He collaborates with his crew. He tries to get some consensus. He tries to get some general understanding from multiple perspectives, and then he weighs what is the best decision going forward based on a collaborative process.
Yeah.
And Jellicoe is clearly uh, not.
Well,
He's
because he
clear.
was in a hurry. He didn't have time to make friends. He just had to like come in and say, "Look, we have 5 seconds to get all this stuff done. Troy, you're in charge of babying these people. I just got to like get us ready for war and this and that, I mean, isn't that it?"
Uh, to a degree, yes. At least that's what we're being sold on. I don't believe it though because I don't trust it. I can tell you, I felt like there was subtext in the conversation between Admiral Nachiev
Yeah.
and Jellicoe when they were in the quarters. They weren't specific about who they were talking about as far as I can't wait to see our friends. It didn't seem as if they were actually identifying who it appeared to be.
That's an
So
interesting point.
I'm skeptical still of what's going on.
Hmm.
I'm still with Riker on the skepticism. The other thing that bothered me too was he's asking for all this respect, but I feel like he's also not giving it in the way, right? So here he is. You're coming on a ship where everybody knows each other and has been working together for close to a decade. And now you're going to walk in, completely make waves, not try to ingratiate yourself, and then you're doing it in an arrogant way. It's not even it's an arrogant way, and I'll tell you what made me realize it was arrogant when
Because
he
he was
told
more
the
arrogant than the French guy, even.
yeah, that's it.
That's that's pretty.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I mean, because Picard was telling him like he's a five-time decorated, when he was talking about Riker, he said he's five-time decorated by Starfleet.
When
He's
Jellico
been,
said, "I can see why he's still only a first officer," I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
nuts."
that's disrespectful.
Oh, yeah.
and that's arrogant, disrespectful, and then he tells Picard to his face right after that, the Enterprise is mine now. And I don't know. I just think you don't need to say that if you're getting handed the keys to somebody else's car. They've been asked to drive a different car. Now you're driving their car. You don't drive somebody else's car and say that. That's all I'm saying. You have some respect about it. You're temporarily in charge for reasons unbeknownst to me. Uh, so yes, it bothers me a little bit that you know what else bothers me is uh, this is why I question Jellico.
Okay.
The way the diplomacy goes, why would Starfleet send this guy who's hot headed and doesn't seem to be a guy who can negotiate really well to
Well,
me?
because he is apparently the experienced Cardassian expert. And this is how he goes about things. He says, okay, Cardassians go about things trying to be the top dog. So the only way to negotiate with Cardassians is to try to out top dog the top dog types. You know what I mean? And then maybe kind of like when you're talking to Vulcans, you want to try to present your argument as logically as possible. So when you're going against Cardassians, he believes and they believe the best way to do it is try to out Cardassian the Cardassians, for right or wrong. And in this case, it didn't seem to have gone very well.
Yeah, I just I don't feel like he has the temperament to be the person who negotiates. He doesn't seem to have the temperament. That's all. Um, and maybe that style flies on the Cairo where he came from, and I don't know who's personnel on the Cairo, but it just seems to me that his temperament doesn't match the crew. Um, and so I'm still not on Team Jellico. It's just not.
What?
Yeah, I'm not on that team. I'm
Well,
just not. I'm still skeptical.
well, you will
Uh,
within the next 15 or 20 episodes of Jellicoe being the captain of the Enterprise, you'll start to really
I hope
come
not.
around.
My God, that guy's already annoying me already. Somebody, I'm waiting for Riker to punch this dude. Like, get out of here. Uh, but I did like the way he looked in the dress uniforms. I like the way Picard looked in those dress uniforms with you know,
Mm.
their whole the style of that uh, outfit. Um, but yeah, here's the thing: when Jellicoe reveals, also this is the other thing that I don't trust about him. He's playing mind games, right? And
Oh
he
yeah.
actually admits it. I think he's saying, "I'm playing mind games. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do
Yeah,
that."
tell them I'm a loose cannon, then they're gonna want
Yeah.
to do this. I'm gonna make them
Yes.
wait for an hour. I'm gonna show up with three people instead of one,
Yes.
give them grudging this. Like he's got this
Yes.
whole deception planned out.
Thank you. And that's why I don't trust him, because somebody who does that in that situation all does that in all situations. That's all I'm saying. If you're playing mind games in this situation, you're playing mind games in other situations. And so now I'm thinking, are you playing mind games with Jordy? Are you playing mind games with Riker? Are you playing mind games with Troy? Like, you see what I'm saying? It's like, is this kind of, false bravado, whatever, or, delegating all of this stuff, like, like, is that all distractionary, or is that part of a bigger plan that you have, just like you have a bigger plan with the Cardassians? So I just don't like it's a deceptive style. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
if somebody says, okay, tell them the price is uh $100
yeah.
more than the actual
And then I'll
price.
talk them down and then we'll
Yeah,
settle in for
yeah.
whatever.
that
It's
kind of a person is conniving in every other aspect. It's
I
not
feel
just
like
in that.
I feel like
That's
we
what I'm
see
saying.
it all day long in sports negotiations with contracts too. Like I'm watching some of these things that are going on right now with the free agency in basketball, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
will you guys just
yeah,
come to an agreement and stop with
yeah.
all this posturing? It's driving me
They're
bananas.
posturing. Yeah, exactly,
Oh
and it
my
just
God.
bothers me. Like, you
Just
know,
do it. Anyway,
yeah,
but I do want to say that the scene you were talking about a little bit ago with Jellico and Picard, some of the juiciest lines, all the juiciest lines came from Jellico when he says, chances are you won't be coming back from this mission, says that right to Picard. And then Picard's like, oh, Riker's a very good officer. I think if you gave them a chance, he says, I don't have time to give Will Riker or anyone else a chance. And forgive me for being blunt, but the Enterprise is mine now. And then afterwards, he goes, well, here's hoping you beat the odds. And then as Picard's leaving, he goes, oh, by the way, I believe this is yours. And he holds up his, but basically he's saying, bye. Oh, and take your shit with you. You won't be coming back.
yeah,
He's telling him, you won't be coming back. Take your book with you. Don't leave any of your stuff here. Get that
yeah.
fish out of
Rude,
here. Get that book
rude,
out of here. It's so funny.
rude. Sorry, so I'm not on. I'm not on Team Jellico. Like, what kind of stuff is that? Even when he said the Enterprise is now, you can see when he said the Enterprise is mine now. Picard does a whole like, okay, I'm. You know what? I'm just gonna be take my orders. I'll follow orders. I got a mission to do.
Picard's a
Uh,
company guy. He's
he's a
like, okay.
company guy. He's like, no pushback here. Um, and I'm just going like even when Jellico was admonishing Riker in front of Picard, he was kind of dressing him down a little bit.
And Riker looks at Picard, and Picard kind of like looks away, like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
and not my position. You figure it out.
yeah,
That's your new boss."
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I
So
watched that like 5 times. The look that Riker gives Picard, and
yes,
Picard has eye contact with, and but then like looks away, like,
like I don't want no parts of this. I don't want to jump in.
my
I
name's
can't.
Paul, and this is between y'all. So
Yes, yes. So I thought that was great, and I also felt like this might have been the first time I can remember the Ferengi getting stimulated on the ear like
yeah,
to that degree.
Umox.
Yeah.
And apparently
Um,
that was maybe going to be Quark initially. Uh, but then, right? I think that's what that there was something about that where it might have been Quark ahead of time. But then this guy, Damon Solok or Solek,
yes.
he was a great Ferengi. There was a lot that happened in this episode. We had Admiral Nechayev, we had uh, Gul Levesque, or wait, Lamech. We
Lamech, yeah.
had Gul Madred that we just got introduced to at the end there. We got Jellico. We got this new Damon Solek. Like we got a lot of cool characters that were
Yeah.
introduced, and I was pretty excited about that. I would have loved to see when the away team leaves. I would have liked to see them get filled up with like, bring Ensign Rowe in. Let's, because we're whittled down to like 4 main characters. So bring in a little bit of Ensign Rowe here, bring in a little bit of Barclay and engineering, like kind of refill the reserves of main characters for us, but didn't get that.
Yeah, but I'm kind of okay with that because there's enough going on here where it's like, I mean,
Totally.
you throw Ensign Rowe, that's even more there. Um, but there was also a moment there where we're there at the briefing and Admiral Nechayev says, she says, something like, just I want you to make sure that we're prepared for this incursion. And then Riker says, "Is the Starfleet ready to go to war? Like are we about to go to war over this?" And she says, "I didn't say war. I said incursion." Right?
So good. That is such a good line.
It was such a good line, and the look he gave, like, what like,
What's the difference? And she's like, basically saying our position, our official position is
yes,
incursion, not war. It's all the semantics of diplomacy.
yes,
That's
yes,
Ronald D. Moore can write
yes,
like a champion. He creates this conflict that's so nuanced, but we as the audience like feel it. It's all just like a little bit of words here and there, but we feel it. We feel the subtext in there. Oh, it's really
Yes,
good writing.
yes, that's what I'm saying. Exactly what I'm saying. Just like when he says, "Yeah, where is Captain Picard?" It was so good. It was so
Reassigned. Yeah.
it was
All right.
it was so great. It was. I mean, so yeah. I mean, and then I like the fact that Troy tried to come out to him and reach out and said, "Hey, look, this is what's going on with the crew and the morale and this and that." And he's like, "Look, why don't you handle that? And why don't you change your outfit while you do it?"
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just so good. Like when she says, because he goes, yeah,
yeah,
I've noticed a bit. She goes, I'd like to talk to you about the change in command and how it's affecting the crew. And he says, I've noticed a little resistance. Yeah. And she goes, not resistance, uncertainty. I'm like, that is such a
yeah,
Troy thing to say. And he goes,
yeah,
mm, I see your point. She says, maybe they just need time to adjust. And he says, I'm glad you brought this to my attention. And she's thinking, oh, good, this is working out. He goes, you've
yeah.
given this a lot of thought. Please be sure they make the adjustment to it quickly and easily. And then he
Yeah.
says, oh, yeah, and change your clothes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, this thing had everything in it as far as I was concerned. I enjoyed this writing. Like
Uh,
I'm secretly just anticipating this next part two. Like it's gotta be good because he set it up so good. I'm set, I'm in.
right.
Whatever it is, I'm in. I want to see the end. I need to see the end. And it's funny watching Worf's face when they said it's a metagenic weapon, and he's like, "Speak English."
I am not familiar with metagenics. They're like, we know, Worf. We would have been surprised if you had known. If you had said, oh, metagenic weapons. Yes, of course. Back in Russia.
Yeah. Worf,
Uh,
need we remind you why we brought you here? We know. We know you don't
yeah.
know.
So it's time for the home run of today's episode, everybody. What do you think, Sirach? Who gets the home run of today's episode?
I gave it some thought, and it's not easy, but it's going to be Ronald D. Moore. Ronald D. Moore writes so well that I think it's the language is just so beautiful. The conflict, the drama, the nuance. It just makes it easy to perform, and that's
Hmm.
why you get great performances like Jellico or great performances like Picard and Riker in this episode. But it comes down to ultimately, I feel like the language of the writing and Ronald Moore gets it like nobody else. As a matter of fact, when I watched this episode, and I think I might have said this before, but it bears repeating. Ronald Moore, in my humble opinion, is the best writer of Star Trek.
Could very well be.
It's just the ones that pop out are his episodes. I mean, on a
Hmm.
consistent basis. I mean, not maybe not the single best episode, but on a consistent basis, his episodes are home runs, and this is
Totally.
one of them.
Yeah. So I agree with you completely. It's Ronald D. Moore. He wrote an excellent episode. The lines are dripping with
Mm,
depth and subtext and nuance. I mean, he knows exactly how to write a great episode. Of course, the writer's room gets a bunch of kudos for creating this episode with him, but it's not just the storyline. It's also the specific dialogue and lines that he writes. It's really good. So home run to Ronald D. Moore.
yeah.
Easy. Um, all right. And I would say Ronnie Cox for playing Edward Jellico, but we're going to have like at least 50 more episodes with him as captain of the Enterprise
Oh
to
God.
give him his at bats. All right.
Oh
We also
God.
want to give a very special thanks to our friends Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman, Tom T.J. Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Titus Moeller, Dr. Mohammed Noor, Anil O, Palat Joe Balsarati, Mike Goo, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, The Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manosfi, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Chris Sternick, Greg K. Wickstrom out in Hawaii, Cassandra G., Chuck A., Chris Garrison, of course, Jason M. Oken. All right, everybody, stick around. We've got the free for all up next. People are going to go nuts. It's going to be awesome. We'll be right back on the seventh rule. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh rule with Sirach Lofton. It is time for the free for all with Melissa Longo and her seventh rule shirt and her new favorite headphones. Also joining us is Jason M. Oken,
Hi, everybody.
middle name included. Eve England is out in Wales. She's got a cool walking art made by Melissa shirt. We've got Chris Garris in Southeast Texas.
Hello.
Allison Leach Hyde is in the heart of New Mexico. She is the heart of New Mexico. TJ Jackson Bay is out in Missouri in an Enterprise shirt or uniform. Faith Howell is on the bridge of the Enterprise D, just like TJ is. Carrie Schwent is outdoors, kind of. And the Dark Lord, Chris McGee, has a cool Guns N' Roses, Seventh Rule shirt on. All right. Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
I think this was around an 8.4.
Does anybody else have any guesses that doesn't already know the answer?
7.8.
What did you say?
7.9.
7.8.
Okay, 7.8, 7.9.
8.3.
8.5. 100.
Well, all right, everybody at home, feel free to play along. We can't hear you, but just shout it out. Shout, let it all out. Okay, the answer is, of course, let me check to make sure I got this right because I think somebody nailed it yet again. It is, 8.3. Jason M. Oken, how did you do it besides looking it up?
Sirach, yeah, I knew you were probably right there. I just had to go a little different, so there you go.
Yeah, I was
right.
close.
Yeah.
I was close.
Very, very close. Non-appearance mentions, I got Yvette Picard because we have seen Yvette Picard in Star Trek Picard.
Yeah.
But did we see his dad?
Not yet.
Yeah, we did.
In Picard, we
In
did.
Picard
Picard.
as well. Okay, great. So that's a
Yeah.
non-appearance mention. Maurice. So that's a non-appearance mention for both of them then. Right, that's right. Maurice was kind of a, yeah. Any other non-appearance mentions though? Okay. What about some kind of or some sort of? We know that Lineards are some kind of Celtran bat. Were there any others?
Well, he said a kind of, I think, but could qualify. I did not catch any others, though.
Okay. Thank you, Dark
Some
Lord.
kind of miracle.
All right. Melissa Longo, will you please get us started off on the right track? We know that Worf is afraid of bats. Beverly's afraid of heights. What do you think of this episode?
And Captain Jellico is afraid of fish. Ah, how rude. Get that fish out of the ready room. Why? What's it doing? Why is it bothering you so much? Livingston is just minding his own business, floating along. And he's like, that fish is out of here. Oh my gosh. I'll tell you, Ronnie Cox did a fantastic job as Jellico. What a great, great job because yeah, he is a hard ass, but there's layers behind his hard assness. Specifically, Troy points out why when Riker says he sure is sure of himself and Troy says no he isn't, which is it explains his behavior towards this crew. He's never been a captain of a Galaxy class ship that he's told us, and so he feels like the way that he can take command of this illustrious ship is to be hard on the people and his crew. And I think it's unfortunate because I think it's going to backfire on him. But because sometimes the chat distracts me. I think it's going to backfire on him because his crew and their trust is an asset more than it is a detriment. And I think any leader is better when he listens to his crew and is open to receiving information from him. I do think Troy looks great in the standard uniform. So I could go either way with that. And I'm really excited to see episode two, part two, because this is obviously a setup for that.
Hmm. Also, cool background. Just realized you had the same background as I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Melissa Longo. Great stuff as always. Jason M. Oken. You thought that this was an 8.3 on IMDb, so you think it's pretty good, right? What do you think?
First of all, it's a terrific episode. It's there's so many layers to this, and not just in Ronnie Cox's performance. I think when you read the part, I mean, I can see why he took the role. I mean, it's just he just oozes from the page as you look at it. It's just delicious. You can just take it and run away with it, and he certainly did. I mean, if you look at the entire episode, I mean, you kind of realize that even with the little amount of money that they had, and there's a lot, there are a lot of little things that you can talk about as to where the money went and why it was the way it was. But it was just terrific. You just keep looking at the screen, you keep looking at the performances. Every character on the show had something to do, which is kind of interesting in an episode like this. Everybody had their moments. I think Marina was great in this, in what she was given to do. Again, Ronnie Cox was just amazing, and not only in sort of portraying this kind of a layered captain, more of a prelude to maybe what we saw in Picard and Liam Shaw, somebody who was sort of an antagonist, and you see conflict maybe for the first time, real conflict on the Enterprise, something that you certainly haven't seen on the Next Generation. Throw in some Cardassians, and you have shades of Deep Space Nine with sort of these shades of gray and conflict. So it's very nice to see. Again, it's an exciting episode. I have three things that really bug me about it, but I'll save those for later.
Were all three things how rude the crew was to Captain Jellico? We'll find out.
Oh,
Thank you very
Ryan.
much, Jason M. Oken. TJ's with me. Captain Jellico, best captain in the history of Starfleet. Eve England is out in Wales. It is the first time you've ever seen this episode. What did you think?
Wow.
So yeah, it was I wasn't quite sure what to think of it when I was sort of watching it, and I was thinking it seemed like an odd kind of episode in terms of like the pacing and what it was trying to achieve. Because again, that's what I was thinking, and I mentioned earlier, I wasn't sure whether you're supposed to be on Jellicoe's side or the crew side, because from my perspective, I was thinking this crew is just pathetic. They're just whinging. They're supposed to be the creme de la creme of the Federation, but they're clearly in this battle ready combat zone that they've got 2 days to get ready. And that's all they're worrying about is that, oh, they're having to do things, having to change. And it's like, yeah, but you're trying to get battle ready for this event. And I just didn't feel that. So I didn't feel that Jellicoe came across badly. I thought he was actually really good. He was always polite. The only time he sort of raised his voice was when Riker was being insubordinate to him. And that first instance when Riker kind of gets humiliated in front of Picard. And I was thinking, yeah, too right. You haven't done what you've been asked, and you are ultimately in an army where you're supposed to have this chain of command. And Riker just completely, just because he doesn't seem to like this guy, and then he's slagging him off to Geordie, and they're just both whinging when I just would have expected more from them, especially when you think back to how Picard was so much worse when he started, in my view, than what we now see with Jellicoe. So I was a bit confused. So I don't know whose side I was supposed to be on, but from watching it now, I kind of felt like I was on Jellicoe's side. And I think going back to Melissa's point, and that sort of observation from Deanna around his confidence, I loved how it sort of evolved that he then put all his kids' pictures on the wall, which obviously suggested that sort of vulnerability that he thought, maybe I might not make this. I need this comfort of I'm in this unfamiliar place where everybody is kind of hostile to me. He knows they're going to be hostile because this is this new situation, but he wants that ready room to be his own little bubble and his safe space, which I think is why he gives the fish the
Oh.
the marching orders. But yeah, and I mean, yes, I got some other things that I didn't particularly like about the story, etc. But I mean, I thought it was really good. I love that sort of scene when they were in the corridor and the camera seemed to be a little bit off, so you kind of had that sense of urgency that there is this big rush. They've all got to get ready. They've all got to get step to it. So yeah, I Team Jellico for me. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Eve England. You totally get it. Out in Wales. All right, but there may be some dissenting voices here. Not from TJ, but what do you think, Chris Garris? What do you think of this one?
Um, I don't know. Now I'm starting to feel like I might be on the wrong team. Um, in this group at times. But honestly, and after listening to everybody talk so far, I'm like, okay, maybe the Enterprise crew was actually a little bit in the wrong, for not, gosh. So I it really didn't. So originally, I did not like how he just comes in barking orders, but that now kind of makes more sense. With what I forgot how Deanna says he is not sure of himself, so he is trying to make change and and just shake stuff up because he's obviously hiding his insecurities because he's really not ready to do this. I potentially. And then just like I think what I did parts I didn't like was how quickly, and I know they're in a war zone or whatever, potentially, Admiral Nechayev comes in and is like, okay, you're gonna be taking command over, and Will, sorry, you're not experienced enough to do this. I'm like, really? I mean, he's anyway, like that just didn't sit well with me either. Like you have offered him command numerous times, and yes, he hasn't taken them because he's happy where he's at. So now you're anyway. And so that part was kind of hard to just swallow. But okay, I am starting to see, now that I rethink it, some of you are correct. I mean, Jordy was sitting there moaning and groaning about, well, we can't do this. Well, too bad. And then, also I admit, Will should have just done what he was asked. If you are in a military order, well, if you're in a rank system like that, he should have just done what he was told to do. Get that fourth shift going. Don't, you know, yeah. But I don't think Picard ran, a loosey goosey ship either. But it just wasn't to Jellicoe's standards, I guess, which I don't know if his standards were correct. But like they said, he was trying to get prepared for potential conflicts, and not knowing what they could or could not go get run into. Um, Obviously we get into the next part here next week, and so we'll learn a little bit more about everything. And I kind of felt bad for Picard because, like, I mean, oh my God, when they're standing in 10 for it, and Will's like looking at him like, you gonna say something? And he's like, he's thinking like, I can't. I'm no longer in, this is not my ship anymore. And so I will say that's kind of Will, but you can see like just here on this picture that I have, you can already see in Riker's face, he's not happy about this command transfer already. And so, I mean, and I guess that goes from your first officer. If your first officer is already going to be in a bad mood from the get-go, it permeates down. And so maybe the rest of the crew would have not been as grumpy if Will hadn't been in such a pissy mood. And I do think that stems from them honestly stepping over him and not giving him command of the Enterprise for this project, for this
Hmm.
mission. So, and the change and all that. So, I mean, okay, it is a great episode. Ronnie Cox is phenomenal. I mean, of course, all I can think of is when he's in RoboCop. you know, Good old 80s movie reference there. So again, it's definitely a good episode, and you watch it and you just have to either be your team Jellico or team Enterprise, and maybe you could just be a smidge in the middle. And so I will say my opinion has changed a little now after hearing everybody else point out some of the differences that I had not. Again, I was team Enterprise, but anyway, that's my take on this one right now.
Great stuff. Chris Garris out in Southeast Texas. Thank you very much for that. Allison Leach Hyde, the coolest earrings on the team ever. What do you think of this one?
As a kid, I did not like this episode because, here is Jellico coming in and being hard to all of the people I really like, except for, of course, Data. And I completely understand as an adult why he's like, Data, come with me. Because Data's not going to talk back. He's not going to give him an emotional reaction to anything. He's just going to state the fact, like, we can do this if we do this. And so that's why I really love that. He's like, Data, come with me the whole time. So I really like that how that was written. And I also love that he had all of his kids pictures up in the ready room. I'm like, that's a great sign that this character has depth. He's not just an asshole captain. He is a person. So I really like that they wrote it that way. But my favorite parts of this episode are Picard, Worf, and Beverly in the ninja costumes running around the caves, in the cat litter, which is so sad because the cats are living in those caves.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so Worf's eyebrows sticking out of the hood of the ninja costume is my favorite in the entire episode. I love that. Kind of makes me think of Gandalf and his amazing eyebrows. So I really love the training they go through, how hard that is. Beverly during the relinquishing of command scene, it's like, I'm so sore. I'm like, yeah, they're working you. Like, this is so cool that you get to go on this secret mission and go and do that. Like, I thought that was really cool. And having the fun thing of, bat jump scares and she's scared of heights and rappelling down the rock face, the one rock face that every Star Trek actor and then maybe got to rappel down at some point. I love it. So as an adult, yeah, I completely understand where Jellico is coming from. And yeah, you kind of hope like the crew would be like, hey, we have a new captain. Our captain is off doing something. We should help this guy because we're a team on the Enterprise. So I do kind of wish that was a little bit different. But also, I had the one question of why would Jellico need to go and make this ship battle ready? It's the flagship. It was probably designed by, the ship's designers to be battle ready at all times. So that was my one question, really, my one like big nitpick about this episode. I'm like, why do they have to like rewire the ship? Like it should be already here for max production of firepower. Just saying. So, but I do really like the episode.
Hmm. Great stuff. Thank you very much, Allison Leach Hyde out in New Mexico. TJ Jackson Bay, you've already hinted about your feelings, but tell us all directly, what'd you think of this episode?
This episode sucks. No, I'm just kidding. I always like this episode, but I like it even more, after having just watched it this time because it is so layered. And I appreciate that, more now than I did before. I'm gonna lead with a nitpick, and it is the only defense that I will give to Commander Riker in this speech. And that is, as the second in command of this ship on this high priority mission, they should have read him into what is going on. And that would have neutralized all of the things that we've seen after. But they didn't. And so, and so we got what we got. And I have more appreciation for Captain Jellicoe than I did before. I already, kind of, was had kind of come around on that, but this was a fresh watch, and so I'm watching it. Running Cox knocks it out of the park. There are so many layers to his performance. Like I'm watching him. I'm watching the way he's moving his body. There were times his hands are fidgeting. You notice that
Hmm.
there are moments when you can see that he's anxious before Troy says it. He's
Hmm.
showing that. But when he comes on the ship, he's also seems genuinely excited. He knows that he's got this big hard task coming up. He's never been in charge of a Galaxy class ship. He's excited about it. He's like probably like Worf's dad. He's got the specs. He's been reading the specs. He knows what he wants to change because he wants to have an edge. And so, he starts laying that out. And then nothing gets moving. So he's disappointed. And he starts to show, some anxiety right there at the transfer ceremony when he's talking to Picard and he finds out Riker hasn't done any of the stuff that he's asked him to do. And so that's when he's just like, yo, dude, you got to get this done. Get it done. But his hands are also shaking, when in that moment and in that exchange, because he's like, oh my God, like I'm trying to get this thing done. We don't have any time. I'm nervous. Everybody, they don't know what's going on. And I needed, I just needed to work. If I don't have the XO, then this might not work. Is probably what he's thinking at that time. And in the very next scene, when they go to the bridge, you can immediately see that he's starting to groom Data to take over as first officer,
Hmm.
because he leaves Riker on the bridge and takes Data with him, to go to engineering and get his orders carried out. Um, so he's already working on his backup plan, and he feels like he's in it. I've stepped in it. I'm on the ship. My ship's gone. The admiral's gone. And we gotta go do this thing. I feel like aside from Data, I think Lieutenant Commander Troy um, also seemed to be able to slide into the role that she needed to be in a little bit better. Yes, he's kind of snappy when he tells her to get in a uniform, but she just says, "Yes, sir, I'll do that, no problem." And I feel like that conversation, and if you notice in that conversation, his kids' pictures is like still spread out on the desk. He hadn't hung them up yet. And so I like watching that progress in the ready room as he's kind of, you know, trying to find a comfortable and a safe space in this in this ship and in this new role. When he's talking to Picard, he's like, "This is a tough one, man. I don't even know if you're coming back." And we don't know what's gonna happen. There's a lot of moving parts in this thing, and you and me are the only ones in the ship that really know what's going on right now. So best of luck, you know. And I like that, he's doing things to try to help Picard's mission, like send the what a probe or whatever, and ahead of time so that he can get some telemetry. They're going into this mission blind. I got nitpicks about that, but we'll talk about that later. I got a lot to say. I'll kind of start wrapping up, but one of the things that I really appreciated, I think, he had a healthy respect for all of the crew members, but I really appreciate when they go to meet with the Cardassians and he's introducing the crew. One, that Troy is in a uniform. Can you imagine if she walked in there in her counselor's outfit, for this high stakes meeting? Um, if she did, we probably wouldn't have thought anything different of it. But I think, seeing that change and realizing how high the stakes are here, that it was so appropriate. And I think that's highlighted when Captain Jellico introduces her as Lieutenant Commander Troy. I thought that was super respectful and super appropriate. And anybody else probably would have called her Counselor Troy, which is nothing wrong with that. But I think that Lieutenant Commander Troy really highlights the weight of the situation they're in. She's in a uniform, he's in her proper rank. And when they walk out of the room, he lets them in a little bit on what he's thinking. And this is when you would expect Commander Riker to be like, "All right, I got to get with the program here." And instead, he wants to gossip with Troy just like he did with Geordi and talk about how much this guy sucks. His feelings are hurt. Come on, Riker, you're better than that.
Yeah.
um, I liked how Lemech tipped his hand to let them know that, hey, we got your guy. We know your guy, is on our planet. And I thought Jellico and Nechayev could have done better if they thought that transmission was being monitored. Then what they said was super obvious. Maybe they meant for it to be that way. But Lemech wins on the spy craft, on the trade craft. That's all I'll say for now. I got a lot more to say, so stick around or come back to the other things left unsaid later on.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to more of that good stuff. I got more stuff too later. Thank you very much, TJ Jackson Bay out in Missouri. Faith Howell on the bridge of the Enterprise D. What did you think of this episode that you've seen a ton of times?
Ton of times. Well, I'm with Allison. I definitely hated this episode growing up. It is terrifying. It Jellico is thoroughly unlikable, especially because I mean, I was today years old when I realized that he had pictures of his kids. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch this after we record today because I have never noticed that. So other than Jellico being thoroughly unlikable and our main characters not liking him and our, captain and Worf, who is, clearly the star of the show, being in mortal danger and having been shot in the first half. This is a very intense episode for a kid. Watching it as an adult though, I do see the layers and the deliberate choices that were made in Jellico, and I do like him a lot better as an adult. And I would even venture, you guys know how I love my Ducat villain in DS9. I really think that he is that level of villain in this episode where he is likable in some ways. He has some unlikable qualities. He has some things that are meant to put us off. And it all works really well. I think it is a really, really great example of writing for TNG. And I also really love how this episode sets up the main villain for our favorite DS9. So, all in all, really great episode, kind of quintessential next gen, top 10 for sure. Maybe not my top three, but definitely top 10.
Top 3 to 10. Thank you very much. Faith Howell out on the bridge of the Enterprise D. Carrie Schwent, aka Crafty Bear. What say you?
Well, as usual, I am the captain of the unpopular opinion, and I hate Jellico, but I will get to him in a minute. It is a fantastic episode. I really, really enjoy it. We finally get Deanna in a uniform, and she looks fantastic in it. Blue is her color. My favorite of her the other outfits so far is that blue tunicky dress with the pants. So yeah, blue is definitely her color. Her hair looks fantastic. I love it all curly and sort of partially back. A couple brief things on the guest stars. I've seen all of the episodes that Nechayev has been in, so I had forgotten which one was her first, and apparently this was her first. I love that actress. She's got such an interesting vibe to her. I love her voice. She is in a fantastically cheesy episode of Charmed, dealing with um, fairy tales that she sends against the sisters. If you've seen the episode, you know which one I mean. The actor playing Lomek, I enjoyed him. He had just a great vibe to him. He looked fantastic, and in the one scene in the conference room, he smiles a lot every so often, like real big toothy grin. And I can't help it. Every time he smiled, I saw the mouth of Sauron from the third Lord of the Rings movies. You only see him in the special edition, so if you've never seen the special edition, go watch it.
Oh,
Every time the big teeth, I just
nice.
sent a shiver down my spine. I thought he was great. But to get to Jellico, the actor's fantastic. I love the actor. I love his voice. I total recall. He's fantastic in that. I I remember him enough in RoboCop. The first time I saw it, I was probably way too young. The first time I saw that, one of the advantages of spending Christmas and summer breaks at your grandmother's house, who goes to bed early, and then you can watch all the premium channels that she had. So I saw RoboCop way too young. But I'm gonna switch to my notes here because that particular actor bumped up against my authority issues, and I don't want to get off track too much. So bear with me on that. But yeah, I really don't like him. Other authority figures, and just and other people who have acted that way. You've heard me mention the X before. Similar kind of thing. Personally, I don't think we're supposed to like him just because he's so different. His style of doing things is so different from from Picard. Troy mentioning that no, he's not, when Riker asks about his confidence, really highlights that style of his personality. I feel like it's because he's so insecure that he acts the way he does. He's on this ship full of tons of people, and he's supposed to get it ready super quickly. All he had to do, like in that the ceremony where they really relieve Picard and he takes control. All he had to say was, "Okay, my style is different. I'm going to ask a lot of you, but trust me, it all needs to be done." 2 lines and would have helped me like him just a little bit more. I know he's got his orders, but I'm sorry, I'm with Geordi and Riker on all of it. Geordi even mentions he doesn't mind the hard work. He just needs to have the time to do it, and Jellico wasn't giving him the time. I would, if I'm Riker, I would have rolled my eyes too. And I just thought of this. Riker has already proven that he can handle high leverage situations. He handled himself being in charge of the Enterprise when Picard was taken by the Borg. He's already proven himself. The JF didn't need to bring Jellico in. Riker would have done just fine. That's my own personal opinion on Jellico. So once again, I am the queen of the unpopular opinion. But I don't mind that because someone's got to be. But I had I had a fantastic inspiration for the limerick for the episode, and it kind of comes from a point of view of like a random lower decker who's caught up in this thing, and suddenly he's been assigned to the Delta ship when he thought he had the rest of his day to just relax. So keep that point of view in mind. Our new captain is making me sour. Suddenly, I'm on shift in 2 hours. I want Captain Picard back. Let's give Jellico the sack. It seems like all he does is just glower.
Great stuff. Thank you very
I
much,
do love the
Carrie
episode,
Schwent.
though.
Hope so. AKA Crafty
I know.
Bear. All right, Chris McGee, AKA the Dark Lord. What do you think of this one?
I agree with everyone else. It's a fantastic episode with great acting and a story that sets up the events to occur in the next episode quite well. This is also a landmark episode for a couple of reasons that others have already pointed out. It's our first time meeting Admiral Nechayev. Deanna Troi finally wears a standard Starfleet uniform for the first time. The notable guest stars, well, Natalia Noglich as the aforementioned Admiral. Apologies if I mispronounced her name. She brings a good, commanding presence and a no-nonsense attitude that is just right for the role. I think John Durbin played his character, Gul Lamek, quite well, with just the right amount of smug and slimy attitude. David Warner, a terrific actor, and what can I say, who many of us know and love from a countless list of productions, including some of my favorites, such as Time Bandits, and even in 2 Star Trek feature films. And of course, as others have said, Ronny Cox, another great actor who likewise is in so many of my favorite films from the 80s and 90s, usually action movies like RoboCop and Total Recall, as has been mentioned. And speaking of his character, Captain Jellico, like Chris Garris and Allison, I see Jellico now from a bigger picture point of view. Now, I'm sure most of us at one time or another has had to deal with a boss or even maybe a family member or someone who behaves similarly to Jellico, overbearing, demanding, strict, and even callous, perhaps. Someone who's in the military, maybe, or was, and has adopted that way of life, even as a civilian, maybe even without realizing it. Ronny Cox is amazing as Jellico, who is just such a person. You know he's good at his job, but at what cost to his crew? And yet, as others have said here, and after seeing him as an adult now, watching this episode as an adult, maybe the circumstances that is potentially on the cusp of war warranted it. And yes, I now see the layers in his character and in Ronnie's performance that I didn't notice when I was younger. That's pretty much all I wanted to mention about the episode itself. So for my memorable quote, there were plenty to choose from. The one that I landed on, probably because it's the one that I find myself quoting in some form or another, strangely enough, is Riker saying he's made that abundantly clear.
He sure did. Thanks very much, Chris McGee. Jake's final take. Sirach Lofton, any final thoughts on this episode? Unmute yourself first. There it is. Bye.
And I'm back. Voila, magic trick. All right. Yeah, you know what? It was kind of weird to me. I'll tell you, and I didn't think about this until everybody kind of gave their analysis, but I did think it was a little bit strange that there was an overlap time where Worf, Picard, and Beverly were still on the Enterprise while they're on their secret mission training thing. So I thought if you're gonna put them on a secret mission, they should kind of be removed from the crew so that there's not a kind of overlap like the one that occurred in this episode. Because now you got two captains. You got two captains there. Just the guy I normally go to ask questions, and I have to go to him. And it just seemed a little bit weird to have them on the Enterprise while they were still training for the mission. That was one thing. Data is a great ass kisser. I love it, man, because that guy, boy, he wants to go to the top. He went right to brown nosing. It was amazing. He turned on his friend Jordy. He turned on him.
Oh.
You know, it's like, Jordy, you can do it, man. It's like Jordy's like, seriously, bro. Let me give me some time. Give me a break, man. Stop snitching. If Jellico had a catchphrase, it was evident in this episode because he said it several times, and that is "Get it done." Okay, and I think you got "Make it so," which has a little bit, it has a little bit more optimism to it as opposed to an order barking at you, right? There's a little bit the softness of it when you hear "Make it so." It seems like a possibility, like a creative process of action. But when you say "get it done," it seems like an order being barked at you. And so I just thought that was interesting that, I do believe that the intention is to dislike him, which I do at this point in the episode. I didn't like the handing Picard back his book and saying, and don't forget this on your way out, saying the ship is mine now. I just thought it was just unnecessary to say stuff like that. I thought it made me dislike him. And it also, he's the kind of guy that doesn't collaborate with his crew. He doesn't say, "Hey, Data, what do you think we should do to optimize the output on this, that, and the third?" Or, "Hey, Jordy, how can we reroute the thing so we can get more intensity on the photons? Because I want to be able to really hit them hard." He's not collaborating. He's just delegating. Do this, make this, make this. And that's where I don't like his leadership style. And I feel like I've seen that kind of leadership style before as well. I was screaming at the TV when I saw that it was not a lab. I was like, "It's a trap, guys! Like, get out of there! That
Amazing!
Can't see that door closing? Like as soon as you open the door, you should have known it was a trap. Like, we're not even gonna walk all the way into this room. Like, Warp, keep this door propped open while we take our look around. You know what I mean? Like, I was a little bit upset about that. Because I was screaming at the TV, "This is a freaking trap, guys." There was an alien in the background when the Ferengi was at that little setup that they were at. There was an alien in the background, and I liked that alien. I thought it was a good set dressing, and just to have some variety there made me feel like I was on location somewhere. I like the moment where Riker was about to come to Picard and complain about what was going on. And then he empathizes with him and says, you know what? I'm not going to lay a heavy load on him. He's got enough to deal with. And I see that he's an older man. He's physically tired. You can see that he was exhausted. And I like that moment where he's like, you know what? Let me not put more on Picard's plate than he already has. I don't want to do that. And so he did not. And writing that in is also just a good thing for Ronald Moore to do. It's like a moment that's not talked about, but it shows a little bit character for me on Riker's part and the respect he has for Picard and their relationship. Yeah, and I think that's. Oh, the last thing I wanted to say was when they were hiking down that, down the little cave and had to go drop down.
Hmm.
They used those clips. What are those clips called in hiking where you clip on? You know what I'm talking about?
Pittons,
D-clips.
Carabiners.
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 Yes.
Oh, those
Carabiners
things
to
are
the
like that.
pitons
Yeah.
that they put in the rock. So that was a piton that
Okay.
Worf installed and then clipped into it with a carabiner.
Carabiner. Yes. I was like, you know what? Carabiners are such a good invention that 400 years from now, they can't improve on it. They're like, you know what? The thing works, bro. So it still exists. So I always notice things like that. So that's my final
Carabiners are the way to go, man.
take.
All right. That's it for us, everybody. If you are a patron, we'll see you on the other side in Things Left Unsaid, where I'm going to tell you guys where I'm positive somebody, an actor, forgot their lines. There's a very clear moment that I noticed long, long
Whoa.
time ago where an actor forgot their lines, and I will divulge that in Things Left Unsaid. But until then, thank you very much to Chris McGee, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, TJ Jackson, Bay out in Missouri, Allison Leach Hyde, Chris Garris, Eve England out in Wales, Jason M. Oken, who's thinking like furiously. He's like, I think I know who it is. Melissa Longo, for myself, Sirach, Melissa, and Mr. Aaron Eisenberg. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us. We will see you next time. And until then, always remember the seventh rule.